in Congress. It's not just me. There are plenty of very corrupt people in the new generation. There are people like, what's that? Andrew Romualdez, Martin Romualdez' son, who is very silent on his father's issue. He has not made any statements regarding that, and he's been very quiet. So, directly assuming that just because a new congressman like me is in Congress doesn't necessarily mean that there are no more horrible people there. I mean, if anything, the next generation of thieves are already there. Martin Romualdez has 2 family members within Congress already. His wife and his son. How corrupt our government is. It's practically the cause of all of our country's problems right now, and even before then. So the rampant corruption within our country isn't something that you're outspoken if you speak out against. It's something that everyone already readily accepts, and something that we have an opportunity to change.
You've heard of this, mentally crazy, too DDS, too impulsive, too reckless. Even your lack of college education, they use against you. Among all these criticisms that you've received, what hurts or what bothers you or what do you wish to correct?
Well, there's nothing that I need to correct there because people are subjected to their own interpretations. If they are to criticize me for that, then that reflects more on them than on me, since they are emotionally attached to someone that they do not know. Or if you were to look at the political, if you were to look at the perspective of, if you were to create your own perspective on a politician, then something that you must do rationally rather than emotionally. So if you were to start criticizing them, then you're already putting an emotional basis into that if you're criticizing them instead of their policies.
How are you treated inside Batasan when you arrive and when your videos go viral and you're beside all these other congressmen that sometimes you make fun of in your videos? How are you when you come in? Do you get greeted or do people steer clear of you?
Well, when I first started, I was just a normal congressman, but now the people, they're very supportive of me there. Maybe they don't want to be my next target, or maybe they see the good in my actions, but either way, my popularity has drastically increased within Congress.
When you say within Congress, your colleagues, as in your fellow congressmen, really? It's a surprise because I'm sure many of them are afraid of you, but also many of them are angry. So those who are angry, how do you deal with them?
No, nothing. I just smile. I say hi.
So they refuse to talk to you.
Yeah, they do.
So what's a dynamic like inside Congress when you're there? Because you've gone against the powers that be. You have not gone against like the other regular congressmen, but the ones that are Martin Romualdez, Sandro Marcos. So what's the dynamic like inside Congress?
Well, they see that if I could destroy the reputations of the strongest congressmen, then I could easily destroy the reputations of much weaker congressmen. So plenty of them are either afraid or supportive. Supportive in that they see that I may be the hope in fixing the image of the House, because even them, they are negatively affected by that. Whenever they go out into public, or even their families, their children are being bullied in school, and they see that if I can fix the House of Representatives from within, then that might solve their problems that they're facing in private due to the response of the people to the corruption within the House of Representatives. And the others, they just don't want to be involved in the flood control anomalies, and I just involve random people. So they're just hoping that they don't become my next target.
Sir, how do you assess your behavior inside the House of Representatives? I mean, considering there's an ethics complaint against you.
Well, I'm still clear of any theft of the people's money, so that's the best part.
But how do you assess it yourself?
What do you mean?
How do you assess yourself? Do you believe you have an unruly behavior inside the House of Representatives, sir?
Well, if there is an unruly behavior, then or unruly or disruptive behavior, then that would still be good. If anything, that would be better, since if the House is stealing from the people, then disrupting that theft is an act of good.
There was an ethics hearing there was a hearing in the House of Representatives about the ethics complaint against you, sir. But you were absent that time.
Yes.
You said because you played video games the night prior.
Yes.
But sir, isn't it the time? Why didn't you make sure that you would attend? You would be able to attend that hearing for you to be able to defend your name or like explain your side why you were acting that way, or like, you know, regarding to the complaint against you.
Well, I did make sure I was just I did make sure I was just too immersed in my games.
But isn't it part of like you as a congressman, you should do like due diligence, or like you should make sure that you would attend to your responsibilities attending the hearings?
Well, I mean, if you look at the congressmen now, everyone's just practically stealing as much as they want. So what due diligence can we expect from the House of Representatives? It is an establishment which no one has any expectations from. A congressman could steal 100 billion pesos now, and the average person would just think that's normal. There won't be any significant outrage because that's already what we are accustomed to.
But as a neophyte lawmaker, sir, as a new generation right now, isn't it time for us to like introduce a new behavior, a more ideal behavior for a congressman?
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe in that, sir?
A new
Like
ideal
since
behavior.
you belong now to the new generation of congressmen, you belong to the younger generation. Isn't it time for us to show to the Filipino people that we should be tayo yung magiging model ng isang tamang congressman?
Yeah, but if you also look at the new generation in Congress, it's not just me. There are plenty of very corrupt people in the new generation. There are people like, what's that? Andrew Romualdez, Martin Romualdez' son, who is very silent on his father's issue. He has not made any statements regarding that, and he's been very quiet. So, directly assuming that just because a new congressman like me is in Congress doesn't necessarily mean that there are no more horrible people there. I mean, if anything, the next generation of thieves are already there. Martin Romualdez has 2 family members within Congress already, his wife and his son. So, it's very idealistic to assume that there would be change just because I'm there, when there are plenty of people in the same when there are people in the same generation as me that are the opposite of me there also.
So do you feel like it's an uphill climb for you while you're there in Congress? When you look at your colleagues, you're saying that hindi lang dahil nandyan ka that things will change. So how do you see your role in Congress? If you think that by you being there is not enough to change Congress, what role do you see yourself in? Like how is your outspokenness going to change things?
Well, whether or not it changes things, I would still find some form of success either way. Because firstly, if it were to change, then that would be good for the Filipino people. But if it were not to change and the corruption becomes worse, then it will show what kind of people are within Congress itself. It will increase the people's anger. We can build a society that's openly hostile to politicians. And that in and of itself is also a victory. Imagine their children being ostracized in school. Imagine their families being ashamed to go out in public. That is a good step for society if we are to create a Philippine society which is openly against not just corrupt politicians but also their families, their children's, something that's openly hostile to evil.
So you're saying you have nothing to lose by doing this, because if it doesn't change anything, at least people will see the congressman for who they really are. And if you being very passionate about this, being very aggressive about this, changes things, then you're still this is still going to be a win for you. That's what you're saying. So you have nothing to lose by being very outspoken and aggressive.
Well, yes, I wouldn't have done this if there was any possibility of defeat.
So, what is your aspiration for the House of Representatives, and what are we doing para make sure that aspiration will come true for the House of the House now, sir?
As I previously stated, whether or not it comes through is something that's beneficial for me. If my aspirations were to succeed, then we'll build a better society. if my aspirations were to fail, then we will see what problems we have within our society and who are the ones causing it. So ultimately, if anything, it would be more beneficial for me if I were to fail, because that will prove to people how corrupt Congress really is. It will increase the people's hatred towards the members of Congress, and not just them, also their families. And that is part of a society which I want to build, a society that openly hates evil, that will openly take part in the destruction of evil. As we can already see with the whole Nepo babies issues, it's not just the politicians that are being attacked now, it's also their families, also their children, and I think that's a very good step, because that's where they're vulnerable, that's where their weaknesses lie, in their families. So if we can keep that up, if we can increase the hostility towards their families, if we can ostracize and isolate their kids in school, if we could keep their relatives at home afraid to go out in public, then that's a very good society that we're building.
But for the House of Representatives in particular, sir, like a House of Representatives without allegedly corrupt lawmakers or corrupt members, what's your aspiration for the House, for the body?
Well, to remove corrupt members there, you'd have to remove over 100 congressmen. How can you do that without a revolutionary government, which can only happen through people power? The problem is, all we've had are peaceful revolutions. You can't really make change without making a drastic statement. And I believe eventually we'll reach a point where a violent revolution would become the only necessary step towards fixing our country.
Is that what you're doing right now, sir? Speaking out against the government?
Well, it's not just what I'm doing, everyone's doing it. But for me, we try to keep things as peaceful as possible, but we can no longer stop the anger of the people, and people will become more and more angry the longer this goes on.
You do not agree in a peaceful revolution?
No, what I've stated is that I do want to keep things as peaceful as possible, but when violence becomes necessary, then I will be unable to stop it, no matter how hard I try. And I'm not necessarily open to that, but I would rather prefer not for it not to be violent, but we cannot stop if it reaches that point. We're not the ones deciding anymore. It's the people that have been stolen from. That's who would be deciding. And once we face economic collapse, once we face a point where mere imprisonment of corrupt officials would not be able to save the reputation of the government, then the only resulting action from that would be either a war, would be either a civil war or a violent revolution against the government.
So Congress, sir, there are significant bills but that you already filed.
Yes, the VAT abolition bill, pero ayaw nilang mawalan ng VAT kasi it's a very big source of income.
But why did you propose it, sir? Why did you propose the abolition of VAT?
Well, actually, I made a whole speech about that, but the primary reason is that yung VAT kasi, it affects everyone, no matter your status. So for example, ikaw, pag may property tax ka, they cannot tax you on property without you first possessing property, which is an indicator of wealth. For your income tax, they cannot tax you for income without first having a regular source of income, which is also an indicator of financial stability. Eh, yung problema naman sa VAT, kahit like, even if you're just a kid buying at the convenience store, you're also subjected to value-added taxation. Practically everyone is subjected to that, and yun yung pinaka malala doon. And it's the first thing that they increase, which is...
Pero saan tayo kukuha ng funds, sir, kung nawala ng VAT?
What do you mean, saan tayo? We don't need to get more funds. We just need to stop stealing money. VAT only accounts for, as per the 2024 collection of the BIR, mga 800 billion lang yun, diba? But how much do politicians steal? 1 to 2 trillion. 800 billion is is less than 2 trillion. You can have 0% VAT. If politicians stole nothing, you can have 0% VAT and still have 1.2 trillion extra. And the biggest problem here is that a politician a member of the House of Representatives can steal 0 pesos and still be part of the top 1% just based on their income alone, since average congressman makes a salary of around 300,000 per month. That already puts you in the top 1% income class of the Philippines.
So apparently, sir, you have strong conviction in abolishing VAT. Then why don't you pursue it? the
I already
Congress.
pursued it. I filed a bill.
You will fight for it.
Yes, I already filed a bill regarding that.
Sir, in the previous Congress, lawmakers were eyeing to pass a measure regulating social media, defining fake news and imposing penalty on it. For those spreading it, do you support that?
Fake news. Well, that really depends on what they define as fake news, because the problem is when the state starts to define fake news, then it can also define dissent as fake news. So what type of support would that guard? Everyone, even the children, knows how corrupt our government is. It's practically the cause of all of our country's problems right now, and even before then. So the rampant corruption within our country isn't something that you're outspoken if you speak out against. It's something that everyone already readily accepts.